before I do this week's Power Oversteer, I'd like to talk about another dark weekend in motorsport in the VLN series, which is a championship that takes place on the Nürburgring, with races all on the Nürburgring or North Cypher. Unfortunately, at the weekend, one of their drivers suffered a heart attack while he was driving, Wolf Sylvester, and he died behind the wheel. And so, thoughts and prayers go out to his family and friends. And then on the same day, on the Saturday, at Le Mans, the 90th edition of the Le Mans 24 Hours, and in the early part of the race it was a bit slippery and a couple of cars had spun at Terre Rouge, I believe that's how you say it, and an MP2 car had spun, a Ferrari GT Pro car spun, and then the GT leader, the Aston Martin containing Alan Simonson, came up to that corner and unfortunately went over the curve too much, lost control, saved the car, but he went into the barrier head on, and unfortunately on the other side of that barrier was a tree, and he went head on into the tree. He later died of injuries suffered in the accident, and for the rest of the race the Danish flag was flown at half mast, and Tom Christensen, the now 9-time winner, he dedicated his win in memory of Alan Simonson, his fellow Dane, the great Dane. And again, thoughts and prayers go out to his family and friends and to his teammates as well, an all Danish team there in Aston Martin, as said, on pole, leading the GT class, and then that terrible accident happened. And it's the first death at Le Mans since 1997, first in a race conditions since 1986. And what can I say? I've already talked about death in motorsport before in my vlog coming back, and I can't really add much more to it. And all I can say is my thoughts and prayers go out to both of those families and friends of those two drivers. Let's roll it. Hey, I'm Kev Kerr, Mr. Kerr, and welcome to Power Oversteer, a real motorsport show on the ElusiveKev channel, back after about a month and a half away. I'm going to apologise for that. I haven't been earlier this month as well, with all the IndyCar races that have been going on, with back-to-back races throughout June. Fantastic to see, and fantastic races to watch, but it's not IndyCar I'm talking about in this Power Oversteer. We are previewing the 8th round of the 2013 FIA Formula 1 World Championship. It is the British Grand Prix, the rainy, the muddy, the hardly unpredictable British Grand Prix at the Silverstone circuit in Northamptonshire. And Silverstone, of course, the venue of the first official Formula 1 World Championship race in May in 1950, won by Nino Ferrara, the first Formula 1 World Championship in his Alfa Romeo. And since then there's been a couple of changes to Silverstone, most recently, of course, most significantly, of course, with that Silverstone ring, and with the moving of start finish straight to the new Abbey complex, on the new complex there, and that happened a couple of years ago. And so going into this British Grand Prix, though, it is a familiar face at the top, a familiar team at the top. We do have Sebastian Vettel leading with 132 points, from Fernando Alonso with 96, Kimi Raikkonen on 88, Lewis Hamilton on 77, and Mark Webber rounds out the top 5 on 69 points. Nico Rosberg has 57, Felipe Massa with 49, Paul Di Resta in a impressive 8th with 34, ahead of Roman Grosjean on 26, and then Jenson Button only 25 points in his McLaren. Adrian Sutil's got 17, half the points of his teammate. John Everton off his best weekend in Formula 1 with 13 points, Sergio Perez with 12, Daniel Ricciardo with 7, and then Nico Hulkenberg with 5 points in the point scorers. Then you got Esteban Gutierrez, the two Williams drivers, Valtteri Bottas and Pastor Maldonado without a point. Jules Bianchi leading the battle of the newer teams with a 13th place finish in Malaysia. of Charles Pic, Max Stewart and Guido van der Garde. In the Constructors, Red Bull lead by 201 points, 56 ahead of Ferrari in second, with Mercedes close to the Ferrari on 134 points. Lotus, they have 114 points, and there's a big gap to Force India in fifth in the top 5 with 51 ahead of McLaren on 37. Toro Rosso up to 7th with 20 points ahead of Sauber, and then Williams, Marussia and Caterham have not scored so far this season, and so that is the standards going into this British Grand Prix. Let's look at some news that has happened since the Canadian Grand Prix. Of course, we had Tiregate, we had the tribunal, we had fist pumping, we had angry people. Not there actually, we had Ferrari and Red Bull kind of miffed. But we do have Mercedes and Pirelli who have been reprimanded, and Mercedes have been banned from the Young Drivers Test that is at Silverstone after this Grand Prix. And what can I say? It was a cock-up from all sides. It was a cock-up from Pirelli, cock-up from Mercedes, cock-up from the FIA most importantly, and that's why there's maybe there were the penalties and why the punishments were very, very weak when you look at it as a whole. But that's why I can understand why the penalties were lean, because the FIA did cock up, Charlie Wrighton did cock up, and it was a bit of similar timing when he was rumoured to be replaced by Giorgio Ascanelli before this hearing, wasn't it? So maybe those are linked there. But I can also stand the lean penalties on the political side, because Mercedes, very big powerhouse in the sport now, very keen to keep manufacturers F1, very keen on Mercedes, who's a very big team in F1. They supply quite a lot of teams, and more about that later, and about changes to that later. And you know, they're very important to keep them in the sport, and so maybe the lean penalties will help that with keeping Mercedes in the sport for the future, with Formula 1 struggling with engine suppliers and struggling with tyre suppliers, because Pirelli are the only one who stepped up to the plate, and it looks like they're going to have a extension to their contract for the next 3 years, and so maybe that's why the FIA wanted to keep them, you know, because no one else is prepared to be in this state of where if you do something right, no one notices. If you do something wrong, everyone notices, and you know, you get severely criticised, as Pirelli have done this year. It's a no-win situation for the tyre supplier in Formula 1, unfortunately. That's why with this bad image, with this bad situation that comes with the tyre supply in F1, you don't see the likes of Michelin, you don't see Hancock, you don't see Bridgestone willing to offer their services to F1. They're more willing to go to Superbikes, to MotoGP, to rallying, to DTM, to sports car. They're willing to do all of these other series, but not F1 because of the PR implications. But it seems like Pirelli are the only tyre company that is willing to withstand that, and it looks like they're going to be, as I said, announced for the next 3 years. And Paul Henry today is already talking about how the prototype tyres that are being tested, they're not really for this year, they're going to be for next year. They're already looking ahead to 2014. And so yeah, that's a bit about Tiregate. On the driver front, Mark Webber finally announced that he's going to the Porsche LMP1 program next year. Johnny Neil Yarni there was announced earlier this week, and so that is a formidable pairing there. Webber, who's had previous experience at Le Mans with Mercedes, of course, famously flipped twice at Le Mans when Peter Dunbrek famously flipped in the race in '99 off the tour. I don't remember, might have been 2000, but I think it was '99. And so yeah, very good signing for Porsche, very good signing for Webber, who can maybe enjoy himself a bit more from the scrutiny of the F1 paddock and a bit more relaxed paddock of the supercar, or not supercar, of the World Endurance Championship there, of the sports cars even. So yeah, very good sign, I believe, on both sides there. And pairing with Neil Yarni, who's been a very strong driver for Rebellion in recent years in their private LMP1 category, and so those two look very strong. It'll be very interesting to see who competes the lineup there. And that means there's a seat open at Red Bull next year. Kimi Raikkonen's been rumoured for a while, since Dieter Mateschitz said he would very much like to see Raikkonen in that seat. But it's going to be a case of how Red Bull plan for the future. Vettel's been linked away to Ferrari. I think everyone's been linked away to Ferrari though. And if you're a top driver, even Lewis Hamilton's been talking about Ferrari and how he'd like to drive there recently. And so it's going to be interesting to see how Red Bull plan for the future. Do they look at the young stars like Vern, like Ricciardo, make them battle like hell for that number 2 seat there and build a team around Vettel even more? Or do they bring in the superstars like a Raikkonen, like maybe even a Hamilton in the future, to, you know, really build up this hybrid, like this battle of the titans, at this titan team, at this team that keeps winning everything, and this driver that keeps winning everything, and you've got this old veteran alongside him. Remind you of Alonso and Hamilton a bit. Yeah, that's maybe Red Bull will go that route. I think it would be very interesting to see what they will do. And of course there are other drivers in that Red Bull Young Drivers program, such as Antonio Felix da Costa, who could maybe even swoop in and get that second seat if he does really well in Formula Renault 3.5. But I think we've seen, as in Moscow recently, there's another McLaren young driver there, or young driver in the McLaren program, who's doing very well. So it's going to be hard for da Costa, I think, to really show himself on the radar unless he does it at this young drivers test in Silverstone. But the big news today has been that the World Motor Sport Council met at Goodwood House, and they've laid down some changes to the 2014 sporting and technical regulations in Formula 1, as well as other series such as rally and endurance racing, karting, any series they govern basically. But let's talk about the changes in Formula 1. And at the request of Mercedes, they will only supply engines to a maximum of 4 Formula 1 teams next season. A penalty point system for drivers has been introduced, so if you get 12 points on your license, you'll be banned next race, and you've been given 1 to 3 points depending on the severity of the offence, and points will stay on the driver's license for 12 months. They will not be eradicated at the end of said season. They will stay on there for 12 months. We got a significant reduction in the amount of wind tunnel testing and CFD work to help, reduce costs and potentially allow 2 teams to share 1 wind tunnel, which we kind of already see already. We've got 4 2-day track tests to be allowed in season after an event, after a Grand Prix. These will take place in Europe on the Tuesday and Wednesday after that race. Even there's a bit like in MotoGP where they test after a Grand Prix, such as like Valencia. They test on the Monday afterwards or Tuesday. Track testing will now be permitted in January 2014 to allow earlier testing of these new power units. For safety reasons, all team personnel working on the car in a pit stop will now be required to wear head protection. In the Friday first practice session, an extra set of tyres will be allowed for the first 30 minutes of that session to encourage teams to take to the track and not worry about available tyre wear on other tyres. And I find that a bit ridiculous, actually, that how it's for the first 30 minutes. Why don't go the whole hog and put it for the whole hour and 30? I know why it's for the only first 30 minutes to make sure cars go out on track, but this is practice. Let the teams do whatever they want. It is not part of the entertainment, shall we say, of qualifying and the race, even though it seems to be now included in that. And yeah, I don't understand that. Just let the teams do what they want in practice. Give them just an extra set of tyres. A bit like IndyCar do. They gave, from Long Beach, they give their teams an extra set of tyres for first practice to encourage them to go out. Just do the same. We also got a number of new regulations for these power units. Only 5 power units may be used by each driver for the whole season. If they use an additional power unit, they start the race from the pit lane, and if there are changes to the individual elements in these power units, such as turbochargers, MGUs or energy storage, that will result in a 10 grid place penalty. Also, no manufacturer is allowed to make changes to these engines in the period from 2014 to 2020. If they do make changes to the homologated unit, they will continue to be permitted for installation, reliability or cost saving Reasons: drivers will now use a gearbox for 6 consecutive events, an increase from 5. No car may use more than 100 kilograms of fuel from the time the lights go out at the start of the race to the checkered flag. This will be monitored by the FIA approved fuel flow meters, and the pit lane speed limit currently 60 kilometers per hour for free practice, 100 kilometers per hour for qualifying and no race, apart from 60 kilometers per hour at the street circuits of Melbourne, Monaco and Singapore. This will be changed to 80 kilometers per hour for the whole event except at Melbourne, Monaco and Singapore, where it will stay at 60. This is for safety reasons. Now the technical regulations. No more step noses next year. It has been gone. They are going to generally lower the chassis. I never say it. No, they're going to generally lower that, so they're going to have a genuine low nose for safety reasons. The minimum weight limit has been raised by 5 kilograms, because the power units are a bit heftier than they thought they would be. Electric control of the rear brake circuit is permitted in order to ensure consistent braking while energy is being recovered. And copping rims either side of the driver's head are stronger, with the amount of deflection during the state of those heads reduced from 20 to 5 millimeters, and ensure the side impact structures are more useful in an oblique impact and more consistent. They will become standard items made to a strictly laid out manufacturing process and fitted to the cars identically. So hopefully you reduce costs as no team will have to develop their own structures. So those are the changes to the next year's regs, and they're shaping up pretty nicely. As I said, I don't mind any of them apart from that extra tyres in practice session. Just give it the whole session. Let the teams do what they want, for God's sake. So yeah, that's the news for the past couple of weeks, and heading into this event. Now at this event, let's do some track facts now. So some track facts about the British Grand Prix. Well, Britain has been the only country apart from Italy to hold a World Championship event for every season since the inception of the official Formula 1 World Championships in 1950. The first race won by Nino Ferrana, or Giuseppe Ferrana, in the Alfa Romeo. The domination of Alfa Romeo in 1950-1951, and he won the first World Championship in 1950 ahead of his teammate Juan Manuel Fangio. And the 1950 event was the only Grand Prix where the reigning British monarch actually attended the race. King George VI and Queen Elizabeth were there, and the event was also known as the Grand Prix of Europe. It was like a prestigious title they gave to special Grand Prix every year until it eventually became the European Grand Prix for an event which was in Europe, but not in there. And I apologise for that. Got a bit of allergies at the moment. So the British Grand Prix has been held at Silverstone 46 times previously, at Brands Hatch 12 times, and at Aintree 5 times. And the other British Grand Prix to hold, British venue to hold a Grand Prix, of course, was Donington, and that famous 1993 European Grand Prix. And Silverstone has been the only circuit to stage a British Grand Prix since 1986, despite losing the rights in 2009 to Donington. Unfortunately, Donington didn't come through on their behalf, and so it went back to Silverstone for a number of years now. 16 times the British Grand Prix is won by British drivers. The first to take victory in his home race was Sterling Moss at Aintree in the Mercedes in 1955 by 0.2 seconds from his teammate Juan Manuel Fangio. 11 other Britons have won the British Grand Prix, such as Tony Brooks, who shared it with Moss in 1957 at Aintree, and that was the first win for British drivers in a British car, the Van Wall. And Van Wall would go on to win the first constructors title in 1958, and this was when Peter Collins won in his Ferrari, with the first Brit to win the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Unfortunately, Peter Collins died in an accident at the next event in the German Grand Prix at the Nürburgring. Jim Clark won for 4 consecutive years from 62 to 65. Thus a win in 67. Jackie Stewart in 69 and 71. James Hunt in 1977, John Watson in 1981, Nigel Mansell 4 times from 86, 87, 91 and 92. Damon Hill won the British Grand Prix in 94, Johnny Herbert in 95, David Coulthard back-to-back in 1999 and 2000, and of course Lewis Hamilton in the wet in 2008, and Jimmy Clark has won it 5 times, the most along with Alain Prost, who's also won it 5 times, and his consecutive wins of 4 in a row from Jim Clark from 60 to 65, the most apart from Ayrton Senna at Monaco, who won the Grand Prix from 89 to 93 5 times in a row. And of course the British Grand Prix is famous for a couple of firsts. Ferrari winning their first Formula 1 World Championship race with the now late Jose Froilan Gonzalez of the Pappas Bull in 1951, and Ferrari would dominate the event for the next few years, with Sky winning 52, 53, and then Gonzalez winning his second and final event, World Championship event, in 54. And so Ferrari have won this event the most times with 16. Next up is McLaren with 14 wins, and Red Bull have been setting the pace in recent years with 3 of the last 4 British Grand Prix, with only Alonso in 2011 breaking up that run, but he couldn't stop Webber last year. And the British Grand Prix, 5.891 kilometres long, second longest on the calendar behind Spa, which is just over 7 kilometres long. The drivers will complete 52 laps, covering 306.198 kilometres. And in the 63 previous British Grand Prix, the Pulsar has only won 24 times. So those placed on the grid, a winner has been is 8th with Carlos Reutemann in his Ferrari in 1978. Pelleri will take part in the 250th Formula 1 event. They won the first one with Ferrari in 1950, and this weekend at Silverstone, Williams will be celebrating their 600th Grand Prix as Williams F1. If you include events where Frank Williams has led a team, such as Di Mattaso, with his driver he managed, such as Piers College, Pat Courage, and Izo, Marlboro, and some other teams he's been with, there'll be over 700 events for Sir Frank Williams. So let's do some Williams facts now. So some Williams quickfire facts. They have not actually done 600 race starts. That will be the next round in Germany, but they were chosen this weekend at Silverstone to celebrate their landmark. And the British Grand Prix saw them witness their first ever win in 1979 with Clay Regazzoni, after Alan Jones was on pole but encountered problems in the race, and that 100th Grand Prix win with Jacques Villeneuve in 1997. Williams will be displaying the landmark number 600 on the sideboards of both their FW35 cars, and they will be embezzled with all 691 Williams employees who work all divisions of the Williams Group as a tribute to the continued hard work and dedication. Founded in 1977 by Frank Williams and Patrick Head, Williams has secured 297 podiums, 114 race wins, and 16 World Championship titles over the past 36 years. 9 of the titles have been constructors' titles, with 7 drivers winning championships such as Alan Jones in 1980, Ketty Rosberg in 82, Nelson Piquet in 87, Nigel Mansell in 92, Alain Prost in 93, Damon Hill in 96, and Jacques Villeneuve in 97. And the Williams Group is growing significantly. It's been an international business now, and Sir Frank Williams was made a knight in 1919, and he honours this to amend his decoration from France, the highest decoration you can get, the Legion d'Honneur. And Williams, they will be hoping to get some points to celebrate the 600 race, with only a best prediction for them for Valtteri Bottas in Malaysia, and Pastor Maldonado got 11th in Bahrain. So maybe they will score a point to celebrate, we hope, off the back of the Bottas got 3rd, of course, in Canada as well, in qualifying in different conditions. But you never know with Britain, he will win. Maybe he will shine through. Maybe they'll both shine through. Maldonado, of course, qualified very well here in the past as well. So that's some quick fire Williams facts. Let's go back to normal facts now. Yeah, so some normal facts now, saying quick fire Kev. So the British Grand Prix is of course a home race for many teams on the grid, for 8 of them. Only In Switzerland, in Highwheel, I believe that's where Sauber are in the Zurich region, and of course in Fiana for Toro Rosso, and for Maranello for Ferrari in Italy. And so the British teams, they have got Force India stone's throw away from the Sir. We've got Williams at Grove, we've got McLaren at Woking, Red Bull at Milton Keynes, we've got Caterham at Leafield, we've got Marussia at Banbury, I believe, and then we have got some other team, Mercedes at Brackley, I remembered, and Lotus at Enstone. That is all of them, I think. Yes. So yeah, it's a very special race for a number of teams, and British drivers have been very successful here in the past. But not Jenson Button. He's attempted this Grand Prix more than any other current driver, 13 attempts, but has never been on the podium. And Nigel Mansell set lots of fastest laps here. He set 7 fastest lap in a total of 11 British Grand Prix. He started last year. Almost 300,000 fans attended the Grand Prix. 80,000 on Friday, 90,000 on Saturday, and 127,000 on Sunday. And there's a couple of records that could be done here, such as Kimi Raikkonen. He could beat Michael Schumacher's 24 consecutive race is in the points that he could in Canada by finishing 9th. And Lotus, they're on their way, not Lotus, Ferrari, they're on their way to matching McLaren's record, 64 consecutive points finishes. They're in the 50s now, and they're on 56 it seems, although I can see here, yeah. And McLaren had 64 before the last round actually in Canada, where they finished 11th and 12th, so breaking that point scoring run. So Ferrari, could be well on their way to topping that. And that's all the track facts I can before I make this really long. So let's do some predictions finally. So some predictions for the British Grand Prix. I think it's going to be a bit different from Canada. I do expect the usual up there. Red Bull, of course, it's going to really suit their circuit. This circuit will really suit their car even. And of course Ferrari as well, they're a much improved car this year. I think this circuit will suit them as well. I also expect to see Force India up there. Again, maybe challenging like they do in Bahrain. I do expect them to be fighting for a top 5 here. I expect Lotus to be back on form with a circuit that will really suit the car, unlike Canada, where they couldn't really go over the curves there that much. I think they were like the fast high speed curves here at Silverstone. Mercedes, expect them to qualify well again. Maybe we can get a pole with Hamilton. That would be very nice, wouldn't it? Or Rosberg as well. He's been the qualifying king this year. McLaren, I don't expect much improvement for them. Sadly, I expect them to just be fine for the lower end points. With Toro Rosso, maybe I was showing they got a much better car this year, an all-rounder, one that's not really server specific, that can challenge for points everywhere. And with that Red Bull seat up for grabs, maybe it will be a fire under their drivers' arseholes, and they will now try and drive really hard and maybe push too hard, a bit like Perez at the end of last season. But they could maybe push, do much better for the team and really make them fight for points, seeing as they now can see a prize there for what they could do. Could step up from Toro Rosso to Red Bull next year. And especially for Verne, he's on a good run, his best weekend in F1, of course the last time out in Canada, finishing 6th in the race after a great qualifying in the top 10 for both of their cars as well. So I expect Toro Rosso to do well and challenge McLaren for points there. And I expect Sauber not to be anywhere, unfortunately, a bit like Williams as well, unless the rain comes. I expect those two to maybe be challenging if the rain does come, for some points, not for victories or podiums, but for some points, for some much needed points. And I expect the newer teams to struggle, Marussia and Caterham, as this circuit's all about aero. They don't have as much as the newer other teams, unfortunately, but I think it will be very tough for them this week. And I left out no one, I don't think. So my prediction for the win for the podium, I would like to say Webber, because he does really well here and it is his last British Grand Prix. But I am going to go for Alonso. I'm going to go for Alonso from Vettel with Webber completing the podium. I think that would be the top three. Of course, let me know your predictions in the comments below, and I expect Raikkonen to be not far behind maybe, and of course Hamilton up there as well, and Rosberg down about 6th or 7th with the Force Indias with Cyril and Di Resta, and then McLaren, Toro Rosso behind, and then Sauber, Williams, and so on. So yeah, that's my prediction. Of course, as I said, let me know your predictions in the comments below, and that is Power Oversteer the return. That is over, and I'll be back with a review of the British Grand Prix on Monday. Hopefully it won't be late like this preview. I do apologise for that. So I'm out for watching. So till next Power Oversteer. Cheerio.